Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We're going to tackle a topic that's frankly shrouded in mystery. It's filled with jargon, but it's absolutely crucial for anyone who has ever put pen to paper or, fingers to a keyboard. We are navigating the completely opaque world of manuscript editing costs. So we're going to break down the true cost of editing step by step. Let's get into it.
Okay, so picture this strangely universal moment. You've finally finished your manuscript. You just typed the end. You close the document, stare blankly at the wall, maybe even celebrate a little bit, right? You feel heroic. But then, right on schedule, the very next thought hits you. Wait, what do I actually do with this thing now? Suddenly, you're wandering into this thicket of mysterious industry terms and publishing costs that sound like they were literally designed just to make normal people nervous.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because that feeling, it's exactly what a writer working on her family memoir experienced. After years of grinding away at kitchen tables and airport lounges, typing the end didn't actually bring relief. As our source material beautifully puts it, what she got instead was a fresh species of panic. And why? Well, because the draft was suddenly real. It's a tangible asset now, and the panic sets in when you realize you have to protect this precious thing from confusing industry quotes and, honestly, from getting fleeced by services you might not even need.
To help clear the fog, here is our roadmap for today. 1. The post-draft panic. 2. Building your book's house. 3. Decoding the price tag. 4. Budgeting for your book. And finally, 5. The ghostwriting alternative.
So starting off with Section 1, the post-draft panic. What happens now?
The moment you finish your draft, the fundamental problem completely shifts. You go from asking yourself, can I actually write this, to who on earth do I trust with it? You are no longer producing pages. You're trying to turn a rough manuscript into a book that people can actually read, trust, and recommend. Look, a rough draft has heart and intelligence, for sure. But a finished book? That requires structure, clarity, and some serious polish. And please, remember this. Needing an editor is not a punishment for being a bad writer. No way. It's actually a sign that your writing is getting the serious professional support it deserves. Moving on to Section 2, Building Your Book's House, the Editing Rainbow.
Okay, to avoid hiring the wrong editor at the completely wrong time, we really need to treat your manuscript like a house. Because if you hire the wrong kind of editor first, it's basically the literary equivalent of installing expensive marble countertops before checking if your house even has walls. The developmental editor is your architect. They look at the big picture. Like, does Chapter 3 actually belong before Chapter 1? Is your business book teaching concepts in a logical sequence? If the foundation of your draft is wobbly, you absolutely must start here. Otherwise, you're just going to end up paying for beautifully polished chapters that eventually get cut entirely.
Right, so once the structure actually works, in comes the line editor. Think of them as your stylist and your interior designer rolled into one. They aren't asking if a chapter should exist, they're in there fixing prose that sounds like it was, as our source amazingly notes, written during a caffeine emergency. They are the ones who improve the rhythm and really sharpen up the tone.
Next up is the copy editor, or, going back to our analogy, your building inspector. They handle all the nuts and bolts: grammar, punctuation, spelling, consistency. They're the eagle-eyed folks who will catch the fact that your main character's eyes were blue in Chapter 2, but somehow mysteriously turned green by Chapter 7. They are there to ensure absolute correctness.
And finally, we have the proofreader. This is the final walkthrough. They aren't rebuilding anything. They're just spotting those pesky leftover mistakes on an already finished text. The practical rule you absolutely must take away from this is, never, ever pay for this kind of final sentence polish on chapters that might still be rewritten or deleted. I mean, that is exactly how budgets just disappear into thin air.
Which brings us to Section 3, decoding the price tag. How editors charge. This is where we confront the kind of chaotic financial reality of editing. You might see entry-level editors charging $20 to $30 an hour, while the seasoned pros command $50, $100, or even more. So why such a massive spread? Well, consider this number: $63,060. That's the average annual salary for a book editor in the US, according to ZipRecruiter data from 2026. But the range is wild. It goes from just $16,500 all the way up to almost $160,000 for top earners. When you get a high quote, you aren't just paying for time. You're paying for their experience, their specialization, and an editor's ability to diagnose and solve really expensive narrative problems incredibly quickly.
And this brilliantly illustrates another massive factor: geography.
Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows median editor salaries varying quite a bit by state. For example, Massachusetts sits at nearly $90,000, versus New York at around $83,000. Location completely changes the math. Editors have to pay rent and taxes too, and their local market totally impacts the quotes you're going to receive.
Aside from location and experience, editors also charge using totally different models. Hourly pricing is great for messy drafts, but watch out for having no spending cap. That can get scary. Per word pricing is pretty straightforward, unless you write like a Victorian uncle with opinions about the weather, as our source jokingly puts it. Per page can be really slippery because, well, formatting changes page counts. And flat fees offer amazing budget certainty, provided you really watch out for scope creep hidden in the fine print. Just remember, a cheap quote isn't automatically efficient if it just means the editor is doing way less work than you actually need.
All right, Section 4, budgeting for your book. What does it actually cost?
To ground all of this in reality, let's consider a practical application using a hypothetical author named Claire. Let's say Claire just finished a healthy 80,000-word business book manuscript. Based on Readsy's data for a draft that size, she has a few tiers to consider. A good package, focusing on just a copy edit and a proofread, might run her $1,250 to $4,000. That's for a clean manuscript that just needs a quick polish. A better tier adds light line editing for strong drafts that have some clunky prose. But the best tier, which involves full developmental editing before any polishing happens, well, that can run from $3,000 to over $10,000. Labor varies wildly based on how messy the manuscript is. So please do not budget for your book like you're buying a cheap toaster. You really need to spend according to the role this book is going to play in your life or your business.
Now, once you actually have a budget in mind, you need to hire smart. Always start with a paid sample edit, not a free trial. This is going to show you exactly how they think on the page. You want to look for clarity of scope, ensure they have real experience in your specific genre, and honestly, just assess their temperament. Are their comments sharply useful, or are they just showing off? Remember, you aren't just hiring a red pen with Wi-Fi, you are hiring their professional judgment.
Finally, Section 5, the ghostwriting alternative, a smart alternative. But what happens when that sample edit comes back and reveals that your book doesn't just need a quick polish, but actually needs a complete structural rebuild? Listen, when a book needs to be torn down to the studs and rebuilt, you need serious expertise. ZipRecruiter data shows that international book editors with a doctorate earn an average of $77,468 annually. When you need this level of deep structural intelligence combined with the actual writing execution to save a stalling project, you are paying for high-level training.
So the crucial point is this. If you find yourself endlessly second-guessing, avoiding the manuscript, and just completely stalling your own momentum, a ghostwriter is very often the smarter play. Ghostwriting is not surrender, and it's certainly not cheating. Think of it as project management with talent. A good ghostwriter extracts your unique voice and strengthens it. It's about choosing a highly skilled partner when you realize you simply can't be the architect, the builder, the electrician, and the roofer all by yourself.
If you're a busy founder or professional, trying to stitch together separate editing vendors can honestly become a nightmare. The source material highlights Opus Eternal as a really smart, accessible alternative that offers premium ghostwriting at less than half the cost of traditional options. And hey, once that manuscript is finally clear and ready to go, utilizing resources like DigiVisitatility for SEO can ensure your professional services actually get the online visibility they need.
Which leaves us with this final thought. By the time you're looking at editor salaries, you might think you're asking a money question, but you're really asking a decision question. What is this book supposed to become? Editing is an investment in a creative asset that can easily outlast your current season of life. Your story has already cost you thought, memory, courage, and a ton of time. So the ultimate question is, are you willing to give it the professional shape it truly deserves? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you take your next correct step with absolute confidence.